Okay, good morning. Here it is, finally, day 4. You might hear some birds because I got a ton of birds around me this morning, which is like nature's soundtrack to this Love Dare challenge. Sorry about that. I also, there are also bees, really big bees. Okay, so let's just jump right into it, okay? We're on day 4. This is for those of you who are joining, this is the Love Dare Challenge, and we're kind of doing it as a family. Um, yeah, but we're doing the Love Dare Challenge like a family Love Dare Challenge without using the Parents Love Dare Challenge book. And so we're doing the original Love Dare Challenge out of the original Love Dare book, but for the family. Like my kids are getting involved, my wife is getting involved, I'm doing it. So yeah, that's kind of what we got going on. And we're on day 4. It's called Love is Thoughtful. There's a lot of this one. This might be a longer video. I'm sorry if you're not digging the long videos, but I'm happy if you are. So this might, because I like this one a lot. And as a family, we've been on day 4 for like 4 days. It's working. Okay. So let's just jump right in. Each one of these chapters, they start with the title of the chapter, and then it has a verse. And this one says, "How precious also are your thoughts to me. How vast is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would outnumber the sand." That's from Psalms 139:17 through 18. Every time I read this part of the psalm, in this psalm, I always think of the book of John. Do you remember in the end of John where it says, these things were recorded for you, but if we had recorded everything Jesus did, man, it would outnumber, there's not enough libraries for it. That's what I always think of. That has nothing to do with the Love Dare Challenge. Just saying. So let's jump into this. The very first part of this is really awesome. It starts off, and I just love how much of this, the one thing that hits me about this Love Dare book is how much of this really reflects reality, right? Because there are these theoretical books out there. There are books that, in theory, man, this is great, but when the rubber hits the road, or when you're trying to do it in practice, it's not legit. You know what I'm saying? But every chapter to me, almost, all of these paragraphs, they tend to strike home or hit a chord. Maybe that means I really needed to do the book, or maybe it means it's legit. You know what I'm saying? So it starts off like this: Love thinks. It is not a mindless feeling that rides on waves of emotion and falls asleep mentally, but it keeps busy in thought, knowing that loving thoughts precede loving actions. I like that. I like that a lot because how often are we told to take control of our thought life, right? And to transform it and do this, but so many times the Bible tells us, "Hey, slow down, chill out, think this through." And if we can grab a hold of that, uh, sometimes I'll come home in a grumpy mood, right? I think I alluded to, we were doing some work just recently with some homeless folks down the way, and just it didn't go the way it should have. Kind of went south a little bit. I mean, it was good, and it's good work. And when you're reaching out to some communities, there are variables involved. So I get home after this rough day. I get home after this rough day, and Heather said something, and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. But that wasn't thinking lovingly. So I had to change my mind, right, and think, loving thoughts, because I know I love Heather. I know I love Heather because whenever we're apart, I'm thinking of her like crazy, right? And I love my daughter. So I'm thinking these ways to be like, I know right now that's like this, but in reality, that's what I love about Heather. And the same goes with my girls when they're being crazy or nuts. I'm not saying not to discipline the kids, I'm saying, to recognize and take a moment to stop and think the loving thoughts and say, so what's the best thing? What would love do in this situation? How do I encourage? How do I teach? How do I mold and shape out of love instead of anger? And okay, I guess I'll throw this out there too. For most of my life, and I don't know if I still do anymore, thank God, I probably do just because I'm weary of it, but who knows? Um, I suffered from a big thing of anger, right? Like one of the thorns in my flesh has been anger. I get mad quickly. I'm kind of sharp and critical, uh, and we know that that's not good. So you'll hear me reference anger quite a bit because I'm that guy. So hey, dudes, all you other dads out there you go. I said it first. You can admit it too if it's you. Um, but I like that. Thinking loving thoughts precedes loving actions. I think that's true. I dig that a lot. I'm 6 minutes in and I've barely gone like half a paragraph. So this is the next one. When you first fell in love, being thoughtful came quite naturally. You spent hours dreaming of what you loved about one another, what they looked like, wondering what they were doing, rehearsing impressive things to say, thinking of the sweet memories. And how many times did we say about this? Oh, I can't stop thinking about her, them, him, her, you fill in the blank, you know. And then the next paragraph goes on to talk about how that stuff kind of starts to go away here and there. That reminds me of another verse that we ran into in Revelations, right? Return to your first love, do those things that you once did. But it's like that not only with our spouses, also with our children. And my girls are picking up on this, they have these times and we have these times where our kids will do these things. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it has to me. um, I've had experiences where my wife or my kids would do the exact same thing. Like there's let's say there's day, we'll give it a name, Tuesday. Let's say Tuesday, my kids came up and they were like, "Hey, Dad," and they're being all crazy and energetic, right? And they're being crazy and energetic, and I'm like, "Woohoo! This is fun!" And I'm playing and I'm making the same jokes and I'm this and that. Now let's say it's Wednesday, and for whatever reason, uh, they do the exact same thing, and I'm like, "Urgh." I forgot in that moment. I have forgotten the joy that I saw in them yesterday, the Tuesday, right? Tuesday, I saw the joy. I took a moment. I saw the happy faces. This is what I love. This is the joy in my life. And then Wednesday, the exact same situation happens, and I'm like, why? And what is that? I think that's selfishness, right? That's me think. That's day 3. Don't be selfish. That's why day 3 was so hard, because selfishness is like the root of all of these things, I think. Um, but it's thoughtful. Change your thoughts. Think positively. Patience. All of those things wrap up into this. I dropped the book, so I'm going to have to get back on the page. Um, but man, how true is that, If we could go back, could you imagine how would things be different? Now, this is a wife moment, okay? How would things be different for us if we started to see our spouse the way we saw him in high school or wherever else, high school, after high school, wherever it was when you first fell in love with your spouse, okay? Um, I remember it sounds funny, but I remember rehearsing, cool lines to say to Heather, and always like making sure that I was like a little bit buffed up. Like before I'd go over there, I'd hit the gym or something like that, and I remember doing all that. And you know what? I don't do that as much as I should, but I'm gonna start. Thank you, book, because um, I think The book actually, all right, it likens it to a fire, you know, and when you're feeding it this affection, that's its air, you know, and wood, acts of kindness, love, that's like the wood, you know what I'm saying? And you're giving it the things that it needs to grow hot. But as we slowly slip into every day, uh, it slows down, doesn't it? You know, we get into the routine, don't we? And it's like, so you'll do this, that's expected. I'll do whatever, and that's expected of me. And you know, she's no longer doing these things out of love. It's just out of that's what she does, and I'm not doing these things out of love. It's just what I do. And then we pass each other, and we take these moments for granted, rather than thinking that person doesn't have to do that, or maybe she's doing that because she loves me, and I'm doing this because it would change if I woke up in the morning and I did like little letters of love letters, which I have done recently. Thank you. Um, and wait, better yet, it is changing. Since I've started this book, I've noticed a change in Heather. I've noticed a change in myself, and I've noticed a change in the girls. The girls are doing very thoughtful, kindful acts, and it's having a positive uh influence. What's the word I'm looking for, guys? It's having a positive thing going forward. And I've noticed it's not just with the family, but even the way that they're talking about other people. So that's awesome. Okay. So I had a request actually on one of my videos, and someone said, "Hey man, excuse me, I apologize. Could you keep it to about 10 minutes?" So I'm going to label this day 4A, and then, you know, I'll shoot another one, and it'll be day 4B, and you see how it's going until day 4 is over, because apparently I really like being thoughtful, or the idea of it at least. So I'll be right back.